Hello and welcome to the course orientation for Philosophy 111. That's Philosophy 111 is one of the philosophy courses we teach here at BMCC. It's cultural and ethical issues in science and technology. I'm going to be your professor for the entire duration of the course. My name is Roger Foster. I've been here at BMCC for about 15 or so years, and I'm looking forward to teaching this course. This will be a 100% asynchronous course, so there won't be face-to-face meetups. We'll do everything online. We'll communicate online. You'll do the work and submit the work online. And in this course orientation, I'm going to explain everything you need to know in order to complete and to do well in the course. So there will be a number of weekly tasks, as we'll see, as well as midterm exams, a final and a paper as well at the end of week 12, which I'll explain. And so I'm going to tell you all about these things in this course orientation. So Philosophy 111, Cultural and Ethical Issues in Science and Technology. As I mentioned, it's going to be a fully online asynchronous course. I will hold office hours in my office on campus on Chambers Street in New York. I'll hold office hours twice a week, so you'll be welcome to come to office hours even though it's an asynchronous course. You're welcome to come to campus and talk and meet, and in fact I encourage everybody to do that. It's great to get to know your professor and for me to get to know you. So it's like I said, a fully online course, and we're going to be using the Blackboard system. The Blackboard system is where I'm going to have the discussion board and where you'll be able to see everybody's blogs, and where I'm going to put up the assignments and where all of the material for the course is hosted. So Blackboard will be our main component, although we're also going to use other resources, other online resources like Turnitin, the website, which I'll explain what we're going to do there and how we're going to use those other resources as well. Okay, so let's get a bit more specific about the course, ethical and cultural issues in science and technology. Let's get a little bit more specific about what we're going to do, and just to give you an overview of how the course is going to go. Essentially, it's organized into two main parts. The first part will focus on the theory of science and technology, and the second part will focus on practical issues in the application of science and technology. So the first part of the course is when we'll do a lot of the philosophical background, and we'll talk about different philosophical theories that have emerged to try to understand the relation between science and technology, and how science and technology affect our world and affect our society, and how they've changed and become more systematic and systemic applications over time, as opposed to sort of haphazard sort of research. So we'll look at a number of the most well-known philosophical theories, and we'll talk about Martin Heidegger. We'll look at more constructionist theories that have emerged recently, and we'll look at sort of theories of the internet and how it works. And in the second part of the course, we'll focus on issues of application. So we'll sort of take a look at things like human enhancement technologies, and we'll look specifically at examples of gendered technology, and we'll look at how race intersects with technology, and look at some examples there of sort of racialized technologies. And so we're going to be looking in the second part at these practical issues. So overall, we'll have the resources we need to think very sort of carefully and very clearly about the sort of systematic philosophical issues, and also looking at some of the practical problems that arise in sort of the day-to-day from the sort of background of how technology and science work in our lives. Okay, two important things to to be aware of, and certainly to take a look at and to familiarize yourself with, are the syllabus and the course map. They're both found in course information on Blackboard, where a lot of the background material for the course is also located. So they have different functions. The course map shows you the tasks that must be completed on a weekly basis, and it gives due dates for those together with any other readings and assignments that must be completed. The syllabus has information on requirements that must be completed in order to pass the course. So it tells you how I'm going to evaluate you during the course. And it also has an outline of the weekly readings and themes. So you'll be able to get a sense of week to week, what it is we're focusing on that week, what the reading is for that week. And so it gives you a good sort of sense of what our themes are and what our what content we're going to look at in the course. So you can look at the syllabus to get those things, and the course map, I think, is a useful resource for when you sit down at the start of a week and you figure out what needs to be done, what the due dates are. Then you can take a look at the course map. So just to give you an illustration of that, the course map, or also called the course guide template, looks a little bit like this. As you'll see, there's columns for the unit or the week. So we go from week 0 to week 1 all the way through to week 14. So including week 0, a 15-week course. The topics, so what are we focusing on that week? And the readings, so what are the readings for that week? What material do you have to sort of get through and assimilate? And then, of course, assignments and activities. In week 0, of course, there's special things to do like setting up the blog, signing up with Turnitin, which I'll talk about in a second. And the assessments, so how am I assessing this week? Usually there's a quiz, and there will be, of course, midterm and papers later on. And of course the discussion board and the blogs are also weekly activities that I'll talk about. So the course guide template gives you a sort of place where you can see what you need to do from the start of the week and figure out how you're going to make time to get everything done. All right, so we go from week 0, which starts before we actually get into the material, through week 14, and so it's a 15-week semester, and very important, work must be completed on a week-by-week basis. So in order to do well in the course, you have to log on and complete the work week by week, and as we'll see, there are distinct weekly tasks that must be completed every week. So it's really important to get a weekly schedule and to make sure that you're completing the work week after week. So week 0, you'll be doing all the preliminary course, setting up a blog, signing up with Turnitin, that kind of stuff. Week 7 and 14 are also unusual weeks because they're exam weeks. Week 7 is the midterm. Week 14 is the final exam. So we'll be focusing on the midterm and the final during those weeks. All other weeks in the course are regular weeks that will involve completing regular weekly tasks. All right, so let's start with the tasks for week 0. And here's what you need to do at the very beginning before we get into the material in week 1. First, you have to introduce yourself on the discussion board. As you'll see, there's an introduce yourself forum. So you can go to the forum and just write an introduction post saying a little bit about yourself, whatever you want to share with us. The second thing is to create a blog. And I've given you a number of options. Again, in the course information of different places you can create your blog. You can use blogger.com. You can use Tumblr. There's a number of sites you can use to set up a blog. All you have to do is post once you've created a blog. Number 3 is to post your blog URL in the blogs forum on the discussion board. So once you've created a blog, you'll post the URL in the blogs forum, and then once I have the URL, I'll post it in the blogs folder on Blackboard, where we can see everybody's blogs together, and it'll sort of appear by your name. So we'll sort of have a shared list of blogs. So as soon as you post the URL in the blogs forum on the discussion board, I'll be able to host your blog on the the blog roll on the on Blackboard, on our Blackboard site. So the next thing is to complete the extra credit quiz, and the extra credit quiz is just it's the first quiz, so it's you know, I've tried to make it fairly straightforward and simple, and it's really just, it's on the Blackboard layout for this class. So as long as you take a bit of time to look around, get to know the Blackboard layout and where things are and how things are organized in the class, then you can go ahead and try and complete the extra credit quiz. And it'll count as extra credit. It doesn't actually count towards the sort of the official grading items that'll start in week 1. All right, so the next thing to do is to register with Turnitin, and the information here is in course information. You'll need a password and a sort of a log number, which is also, both of those you'll find in course information. So if you take those things and then you go to the Turnitin.com website, you'll be able to create an account, and you'll get access to our Turnitin page, where you can submit your paper in week 12. So it's important to do that, and important to remember your email and password. If you're creating an account with Turnitin for the first time, make sure you write it down and save it somewhere safe so you can remember it when you go back to submit your essay later in the semester. And the last thing is to get hold of the textbook for this course, which is Readings in the Philosophy of Technology by David Kaplan, the second edition. I've ordered some for the college bookstore. You may prefer to, if you're not close to BMCC, you may want to have a look online and see what you can get. There should be a good number of second-hand copies. You might find copies for rent for places like Barnes and Noble. So have a look around and see what you can find. But that will be our textbook, and that will be it will be necessary to use that for the course. Okay, so once we complete week 0 and week 1 starts, we'll get into the regular sort of weekly material. So each week, except for weeks 7 and 14, there's a reading to be completed, and it's usually 2 different articles. So we'll be usually focusing on 2 different readings per week, and the first thing to do is to do the reading, and to do the reading for that week, which is the reading is given in the syllabus. If you look at the weekly breakdown, you'll see under week 1 it has the reading, same with week 2, week 3. Aside from the reading, there will also be a lecture presentation every week, and that will be a slide presentation like this one with narration, where I will be able to talk you through the readings and give you a sort of breakdown of how they work and what to look for and what's important in them. So the lecture presentations are really important to do as well on a weekly basis. It's important that you should read each article at least twice, once to get a general idea of what it's about, and a second time more carefully in order to understand the specific argument, especially if you're not used to reading this kind of material. Reading material in philosophy and in other social sciences and in the humanities, you have to get used to the way the reading works, and you have to give it time to assimilate and to understand the reading. It's not meant to be skimmed, it's meant to be read very carefully and systematically. So you have to analyze and break it down and look at how the different parts relate to each other. And obviously the lecture presentation is going to help there, but it's also important for you to do the preliminary work of trying to get into the reading and trying to get a sense of what it's about and what the sort of key points are. So that'll be, until you get into that, you might find that hard going at first to sort of get into the readings and get a sense of how they work. It will become easier over time, the more of it you do, and as you sort of see how things work. And once we get into the practical issues in the second half of the course, when we'll be focusing on sort of more concrete things, hopefully you'll sort of be able to get a really to get a perspective that helps you see how things are working. So it may get easier in the second half. So make sure you complete the reading and the lecture presentation before attempting to complete the weekly assignments. All right, so let's talk about the weekly assignments. And the first weekly assignments are the quizzes. So the quizzes must be completed by the end of Saturday of each week, as stated in the course map. Each quiz is made up of 10 questions based on the weekly reading. So do the weekly reading and watch the lecture before attempting to complete the quiz. So the quizzes, they're in the assignments folder, and each week a quiz will appear at the start of the week, and you'll have until the end of Saturday to complete the weekly readings. Okay, and each week runs from the Sunday until the Saturday. So the end of Saturday is the end of our week, and the next week will start again on the Sunday at the beginning of at midnight, officially at midnight on Sunday. The next week will start. So you have to complete the quiz by the end of the week, which is the end of Saturday of each week, and then that quiz will be done, and the next week will be on the next quiz for the next week. So remember, you have to log on every week and do the quiz and the other weekly tasks on a weekly basis. The second assignment is the discussion board. And each week you must write a post on the discussion board forum for that particular week. The question or prompt is in assignments in the weekly folder, and I'll also write it on the discussion board as well, so you can see the prompt in the weekly post. So your discussion board post should be substantive. It should be about the content. It should be a minimum of 100 words and should be a thoughtful response to the task given in the question. So it's a little bit more than just a sort of chat room answer. It has to be substantive, and you have to think carefully about how you're going to respond, and you have to show that you're responding to the question based on what you've learned from that week's material. So discussion board posts are due by the end of Friday of each week, and again you'll see those deadlines in the course map. So check in the course map and make sure you know what the deadlines are and you see what you got to do for that week. But discussion boards posts are always due by Friday. You must also write a response to a classmate on the discussion board, and the response post is due by the end of Saturday. So posts, your sort of substantive post, minimum of 100 words, is due by the end of Friday, and the response to a classmate due by the end of Saturday. And please note as well that responses must also make a substantive point and contribute to the learning of the class. So it's a little bit more than saying good job or well done or I agree. You have to make a substantive point based on what the other person, what one of your classmates is saying, is talking about. So a sort of constructive and substantive point must be in the responses as well. Now, very important that discussion board posts are your class attendance and class participation in this course. So posts must be completed on a week-by-week basis to ensure adequate attendance and class contribution in order to pass the course. So this is like, it's the same as attending class. When you do the discussion board and you post your thoughts, you're attending class and you're also contributing to class. So missing a weekly discussion board assignment will count as an absence for that week. They cannot be completed at a later time because it's the weekly learning and the learning that happens in collaboration with classmates and that we do on the discussion board that I think is a really important part of learning in the social sciences and in philosophy. So it's really important that you do the work on a weekly basis. It's just not the same thing, and it doesn't count the same to do it sort of later when everybody else has finished it. It's a much richer learning experience, and hence I insist that we do it on a weekly basis and that everybody does it in the same week. and that we sort of use that as, I use that as class participation and class attendance for that week. Okay, so it's really important, get a weekly schedule and get a schedule where you can do the discussion board on a weekly basis. All right, the third weekly assignment, aside from the quizzes and the discussion board, is the blog posts. So each week as well, you must write a post on your blog of 100 words or more. A question or prompt is available each week in the weekly folders and assignments. You don't necessarily have to follow that prompt. If you're interested in something that came up in the week and you want to talk about that, you're welcome to sort of focus on whatever you're interested in. Again, as long as you're addressing something in the course and as long as you're doing it in a thoughtful way, that's fine. So there are instructions for creating a blog in the course information folder. And as I mentioned, that must be done in week 0 so that we're all ready to go with our blogs up and running in week 1. And also, like I said, you may use any platform you like as long as your blog is visible and accessible to all. As long as everybody can see it, you can use any kind of blog platform that is good for you to use. All right, the midterm and final. The midterm exam is in week 7. The final exam will be in week 14 of this course. So the midterm occurs after we've finished the theoretical part of the course. We will dig into the background theoretical issues and the different positions in weeks 1 through 6. And then we'll do the midterm exam in week 7. And the final exam will be in week 14 after we've gone through the practical issues. The midterm exam will be exclusively on the theoretical issues. The final exam will be based on weeks 8 through 14. So it's not cumulative. The midterm is weeks 1 through 6. The final is weeks 8 through 14. Or I'm sorry, 8 through 13. Both are 2-hour exams, which will involve answering 3 essay-type questions. So that the quizzes will be multiple choice and short answer and those kind of things. The midterm and the final are essay-type questions based on the material 1 through 6 and 8 through 13 for the final. And you'll have 2 hours to complete the exam. And again, it will be hosted on Blackboard and the link will appear, and you'll have a 2-hour time frame to write the exam. All right, we'll also complete a 4 to 5 page paper in the course, and the question for this paper will be available after the midterm in week 8, and it's due at the end of week 12. The paper must be 4 to 5 pages and must be submitted via the website Turnitin. Like I said, I'll provide the question, and the paper will give you the opportunity to demonstrate the depth of your knowledge about the learning material in the course. So it's not necessarily a research paper. It doesn't require you to do a lot of reading outside the material we're using in the class, but it does call upon you to use your knowledge of the material to make an argument and to construct a thesis. And to write a paper where you can defend a position. So I'll explain that when I give you the question, but it's a thesis paper that will require you to make an argument and defend a position and take a point of view on one of the questions and one of the issues that we're dealing with it in the course. So you'll be able to go into more depth and demonstrate what you've learned. And that will be submitted via Turnitin, and it's due at the end of week 12. All right, so let me give you some advice for taking an online course and how to do it successfully and how to think about strategies that will help you to succeed and to do better in an online course. The first, which I think is the most important, is to set a weekly schedule and make sure you stick to it. So a weekly schedule means you have set times during the week when you log onto Blackboard and you do specific things. So you'll want to log on early in the week and get the reading material or get hold of the sort of due dates, what things you're going to need to do, the quiz, the discussion board, and to get the questions for the discussion board and to start thinking about how you can respond to it. Then you want to log on a bit later in the week to do maybe to do a post, or to check if other students have posted, and to see what's happening in the discussion board, maybe to get some ideas. And then you want to log on to do your blog post. You want to log on to do your Blackboard response post. So given that there are set tasks every week, and it's easy to be overwhelmed once things start happening every week, and once life gets in the way. But one thing that can really help is if you have a set schedule, and if you know that you're doing your blog post at this time and your discussion board post at this time, and you try and stick to those times, and sort of make sure that you carve out time that you need to complete the weekly tasks. So log into Blackboard several times per week. Make sure you work at a place with a reliable internet connection, especially when you're doing the quizzes. That can be a problem if you get logged out. If that ever happens, just email me and I'll be able to help you. But it's a pain if it happens a lot, and it takes a while for me to respond to you sometimes, and it's it's just not an ideal situation. So if you can find a place with a reliable connection, if not, come to campus and work on the machines on campus. Make connections with other students, keep each other on track, make sure you're check in with each other, make sure you're doing the work. That can be a really helpful thing, and a really good way to sort of to keep each other going, and to get motivation from each other. So making connections helps you stay focused on the class. Keep in touch with your professor. Let me know if you're going to miss a deadline, and we'll be able to work something out. Let me know if something happens and you need a few days where you're just not going to be online, and things. The best thing to do is to let me know in advance of a problem emerging. That's not always possible, I know, but as soon as you let me know, it makes it easier for us to work something out, and it makes it less likely that whatever the problem is going to throw you off for the entire class, because things snowball. You sort of miss a couple of things, and then it's harder to get back into it. So the best thing you can do, make connections with other students to keep you on track. Keep in touch with me. Let me know what's going on, and as long as I'm in the loop, we can always work something out and figure out how we're gonna make up for whatever you've missed. So figure out how you can sort of make these things happen. Okay, finally, my contact info, my email, which is on the syllabus and on the faculty information on Blackboard, rfoster@bmcc.cuny.edu. If anything happens, if you need any help with anything, obviously technical help, that goes to the IT department. But if anything that's content and course related, please email me and let me know. You can also phone. My phone and extension are there. My office is in Chambers Street in the main building. It's N651V. That's in the Social Sciences Department, which is N651. I'll have office hours 2 days a week, and the office hours will be stated on the syllabus, and they'll also be stated again in the faculty information on Blackboard. So if there's anything you need, get in touch. I'm available. Come to office hours. If you want to chat about anything, if you want to talk about the course or anything else, come by. Good luck. I hope you find this a rewarding experience, and I hope you do well. And I hope you'll take more philosophy in the future.